It's all gone a little bit crazy in the world of West Ham again. I had recorded a video which I was going to upload at about 4 o'clock, which was about Dan Ashworth. It's about the director of football. I don't know how well it will keep for tomorrow, but if you watch it tomorrow and it seems a little bit old, that's why I'm just going to put it on there tomorrow. I have to switch my phone off. Things have gone absolutely crazy in the last few minutes, which is why I'm here with the breaking news. Well, it's not breaking news. It actually happened last Friday. So to put it into context, before the Manchester City game, West Ham interviewed Paulo Fonseca for Julen Lopetegui's job. So it would appear that we've been very, very actively looking to replace Lopetegui for some time, and it probably gives a little bit of an insight to how the club have been trying to give a level of misdirection by saying Lopetegui's under pressure, he's on borrowed time, all these sort of things that have been coming out from the club whilst they've been trying to replace him behind the scenes. It is worth pointing out, over the last 2 or 3 days, the information we're getting has not come from the club. The club are trying to keep very, very quiet. In fact, the only thing that we've heard from the club within the last 48 hours is that he's on borrowed time. Lopetegui's on borrowed time. Everything else is coming from external sources, coming from the training ground, coming from sort of other sources. But yeah, so anyway, let me just tell you where the news is now. Last Friday, Paulo Fonseca, who was manager of AC Milan, there was conflicting reports on whether he'd removed himself from his AC Milan position or he'd been sacked. I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? You know what it's like when these things happen by mutual consent or whatever. But Fonseca had said, I hold my head up high. I can hold my head up high with what I've done at AC Milan. He flew over to England from Italy on Friday and had a meeting with David Sullivan. And that's how certain I'm about the news. Also as part of it was Tim Steidten, as part of the process. So whilst Tim Steidten, it just goes to show sometimes we get a lot of these things wrong. Whilst Tim Steidten has certainly had his wings clipped with regard to buying players and having a final decision on players, to suggest that he's been sort of ostracised from the club, it is not true at all. Now, reading between the lines, given this other information, it would appear to make sense that Lopetegui banned Tim Steidten from the training ground after he found out that Steidten was basically going behind his back. So, I mean, Steidten's really doing his job, truth be known. I know I've sometimes been a little bit harsh on Steidten for other things, but in this instance, he's really only doing his job. It was the same last season when David Moyes banned him from the training ground because he knew that Steidten was negotiating with other managers. Steidten, if he's in charge of recruitment, that is part of his job anyway, isn't it? So I think in this instance, it's probably safe to assume that this rumour got out in and around West Ham, probably shortly after Friday when the interview happened. And Lopetegui's banned Steidten thereafter. Steidten has obviously since gone and had another interview with Graham Potter. Potter was then interviewed by David Steidten. I'm making names up now. By David Sullivan. And we understand that Potter still today is in negotiations, apparently today with Karen Brady. But this time there's a little sticking point. The sticking point is over the duration, the term basically. That's what they're haggling over, the term. There's a few more details to come on that really, but certainly I think it'd be fair to certainly not speaking out of school if I were to tell you that West Ham would prefer a shorter term deal and Graham Potter wants a longer term deal, which is exactly what the sticking point is. Fonseca, it was decided not to appoint Fonseca, but maybe leave him as a backup in case the negotiation with Potter didn't work out. Now, whether Fonseca will be keen to be second choice, it is anyone's guess. This is not the first time he has been put forward for the West Ham job. Of course, what is strangely ironic is that AC Milan, the club he's just left, wanted to appoint Lopetegui at the end of last season, just before it got to the late spring, early summer, whatever you want to call it, and there was a petition against Lopetegui, and the fans said no, which is why they appointed Fonseca, who is basically more of an expansive manager, plays more attacking football. Lopetegui seen as the defensive manager. I know we laughed about Lopetegui being a defensive manager because it doesn't look like he could organise a piss up in a brewery, but that is his reputation. Look back on Sevilla, look back on Wolves. I think the problem is with Lopetegui, one of the reasons is he was asked, Lopetegui even said this, I was asked to come in and I was mandated to do 3 things. One of them was to play more expensive attacking football. We hired a defensive manager and asked him to attack. But so that if he looks like he can't do the job, that's probably one of the reasons why. Fonseca is that attacking manager. He was appointed at AC Milan. So we've been linked with him even before that. I think even before Moyes' second stint, Fonseca was rumoured to be in the running for the West Ham job. So anyway, he was interviewed. We decided not to take him up, with the offer. He flew back to Milan, and we've since carried on negotiating with Potter, and those negotiations carry on today. It is a mess, and yeah. Well, I was just about to say maybe I shouldn't have brought this to your attention. Why not? It's all out there. It's not me. It's not me making a mess of it. It's not me interviewing people and all the rest of it. And I guess it's probably prudent on the club's part to interview more than one person. But it just goes to show that everything's very reactive with West Ham. You know, I would have thought that. I would have already thought that we should have had all our ducks lined up in a row already when we've just recruited a new manager in the summer. There should have been a whole list of names that are already interviewed. Due diligence has already been done. Why we're sort of scrambling around now is anyone's guess. I don't want to talk too much about Dan Ashworth and West Ham, because I've already done a video on it. What can I say? It's not I'm giving any spoilers. It's a bloody 16-minute video of why I'm not so sure about that link. That being said, if Potter does join on a 2-year deal, or to be a 2.5-year deal, then it is not beyond the realms of possibility. If Potter were to join on a 6-month deal, Gio spoke about this in his video this morning, then you can absolutely forget about it. But I'm not sure West Ham are going to be going down that route anyway. But I go into more detail about basically why I'm not entirely sure what the future is for the role of director of football at West Ham in the future. I might just release that. I'll either release it very late tonight, but myself and Gio are doing a mug of tea later, and anything could change between now and then. I'm actually, just while I'm doing this, I'm going to check my phone again, just because so much stuff can happen so quickly. All right. Nothing's happened in the last 5 minutes, which is absolutely mental. It's been a crazy couple of days with West Ham. Really, really has. I mentioned it yesterday. I can't remember if I mentioned it on this video or I mentioned it on Patreon. Just done another Patreon update, by the way. I can't remember a busier time since we've been doing this as a job. I really can't remember a busier time. It's been the phone has been ringing off the hook, and as I say, you know, a lot of this stuff is coming from a lot of different sources on a lot of these stories. So if I were a betting man now, well, I am a betting man. I don't bet much. I do an accumulator and bet 50 pence on it. So I am a betting man. So if I was to take my 50 pence, do you know what? I just think about it. I've actually got some change in my pockets. Look at that, eh? Have I got 50 pence? I haven't. I've got £1 though. So I would never bet £1. But if I was to bet my £1, right, I think we will hire Potter. He's not up negotiating with Everton. None of that stuff is true. He's negotiating with West Ham. I think we do get him. And I think there'll be a halfway house. I think maybe he signs a 2.5-year deal, but there's an opt-out after a year and a half, or something like that. That would be what I would anticipate would happen on this one. But it does appear that there's a backup plan there. Well, as I say, whether or not somebody who's been basically sent back to Milan and not given a job would take it, I just don't know. As for this presumption that because Lopetegui is back in training today, that just because Lopetegui is taking first team training today that we won't sack him, you know, you've dismissed that from your mind. I'll tell you exactly what will happen with that. If they do decide to appoint Potter or anyone else, Karen Brady will drive, whether she'll drive or someone will drive her, straight to that training ground and she'll dismiss him. That's just what will happen. It won't. The fact that he's taken training today will play no part in this whatsoever. Anyway, that's my latest update. 7 o'clock tonight. Cup of tea. I was going to say mug of tea. No, mug of tea is one on Patreon. Cup of tea tonight on Hammers Chat. We'll be taking questions. We'll be having a bit of a laugh, and I'll cry. It won't be a laugh. It'll be more of a cry, won't it? I'll catch you at 7.